is our new show, Intero-Views, and I want to welcome Rena Wren. Today, she is going to be talking to us about YouTube and all of the ins and outs of how we can repurpose what we're doing with our classes on YouTube. Thank you for joining me, Rena.
So good to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to do a little bit of housekeeping first because there's a lot of tech weirdness going on. So I want to encourage everyone that if you lose us, refresh on my page and we'll come back. There's been some dropping of Facebook Lives, so I want to make sure to let you know that ahead of time. We won't just give up if for some reason we get dropped. Also, as we go, if you would like to come on live and ask Rena your questions about YouTube and all of the different things that we're going to talk about, you can jump on through this link and you can just come on with us and ask your questions. If you're feeling a little shy, yeah, it is so much fun. If you're feeling a little shy and you don't really want to, that's fine too. You can type your comments. I'm hoping that we'll be able to see them. We had a little tech glitch last time, but hopefully we'll be able to see your messages and then we can answer your questions live in that way. Okay? So before I go any further, I want to talk a little bit about Rena. She is my bestie and most amazing colleague ever. She is a yoga teacher, educator, content creator, singer, songwriter, and she's an attorney. Wow, a Renaissance woman for sure. She has trained teachers in multiple states at the 200 and 300 hour level, and she is also providing lots and lots of continuing education for yoga professionals, dance teachers, anyone who really is teaching in a movement and breath and mind-body space. She does courses, workshops, coaching, live and online. I don't know if I said that or not. And there's so much. She has so many credentials. She's an ERYT 500, YCAP, RPYT, Yin Yoga certified teacher and trainer, and lead trainer for Mama Nurture Prenatal Yoga School. Say that 5 times fast. Welcome, Rena, and I'm so excited to have you here because so many of us have been doing our classes online, and some of us were doing it before, and some of us are just kind of got thrown in. And so it's so good to be able to get some tips for what we can do with it now and how we can maybe repurpose some things and then how we can make some of the things that we're doing better. So I want to know a little bit about how you got started and not necessarily your whole yoga journey, but how you got started and what made you want to help teachers learn more and get better.
Yeah, I have been a trainer or teacher in some form or another since my very first jobs ever, since I was like 15, 16 years old. I was a gymnastics and cheerleading coach, and so teaching has just always been in my blood. And every job I've ever had, I went into some sort of training mode pretty quickly. So it's just sort of in my nature to, once I figured something out, to want to help people figure that out. And also being a teacher trainer over the years, you have those relationships with those students, and they will continually come back to you as a mentor for all things related to yoga, business, marketing, sequencing, how to have a workshop, whatever it is. And so it just was kind of a natural progression throughout the years of moving kind of from being a yoga teacher of like just going and teaching classes to teaching workshops to training teachers. And I just really love to help people.
Yeah, you can see that. And the people who've taken your trainings only say amazing things about you, and they just keep coming back. And that is a testament to your presence and how you share what you know with people, and you are so giving with your knowledge. I know I've learned so much from you, and still every time I speak to you, I learn something new. So I'm really excited to be able to share you with everyone else. Talk about some of your favorite trainings that you've done. Who were some teachers who really left an impression on you or made an impact?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, my other bestie of like we have, I'm so lucky I have so many besties. So
yeah,
I met Courtney Butler Robinson now. Probably in 2008. And in terms of long-term mentoring, and really not just in yoga, but in life, spending time with her and doing her 200 and 300 and then continuing to teach those trainings with her for many years have really informed how I teach, how I study, what I want to study, how I want to share that with students. And she's just an exemplary person anyway, on top of all of her vast knowledge. And then particularly trainings I've done with her related to yoga for healthy aging, yoga for healthcare, cardiac rehab, and cancer care have just, it has really informed how I teach like my seniors and really everybody. So I have to really sing her praises. And then besides Courtney, that probably the other biggest impact in my yoga career was going to Vancouver to study yin yoga with Bernie Clark. Yeah, and that was 2015, and I didn't really even know how much that was going to also wrap around the way that I train teachers and the way I do my yoga and the way I share yoga and how important it is to have balance.
Yeah. It is really beautiful when we take all of our different trainings and make it our own. And Theodore Wildcroft crafted this term post-lineage yoga, and I think it's just so beautiful. It's just a way of taking everything that we know and making it ours. And I don't know if I may have bastardized that a little bit and not quoted her exactly, or I may have interpreted it in my own way. But yeah, it is so beautiful when we can be our own person with all of the things that we've learned from everyone else. So I want to pop this. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it kind of reminded me, because you and I are both performers, that I approach it very much in the way that I've always approached music. I had such a vast background with music and performing, and it shows up in my songwriting because it's not a genre. It's more of a sound. And I feel like it's that way with yoga. Like my interpretation of yin yoga is very therapeutically oriented because of my yoga therapy studies. And it's a beautiful thing, because that's why we all have students who are interested in learning from us, just like you do, is that it's our own way of singing a song or telling a story.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute. That's really beautiful. Before we start talking about YouTube, because I know there are tons and tons of questions, and I hope that there will be some. I don't see any questions in the post right now. So if you have questions, pop them in there. If you want to jump on with us, there's the link. So all you do is you put that in, and it should bring you up in this little, it's called a staging area. I call it my little interactive, or oh gosh, words are hard. Technological green room. That's the word I was looking for. Gosh. Yeah. So pop that into your browser and hit it, and you will come into the staging room. You won't come straight up onto the screen, so don't worry, you're not going to freak us out or surprise us. But you'll come in and you can ask your questions live as we go. So let's just talk YouTube. How did you start to realize that this was a platform you really wanted to be on, and how did you start to kind of find your way around YouTube?
Well, I had a little bit of experience with YouTube and video editing already because of being a musician. And so I would work on, and this was like over the years, many years, and I got pretty proficient with just clipping things together and making things look presentable, more so than I even thought, because people ask me about it all the time. How do you do your editing? I'm like, I don't know. It's just like everything else. I figured out and make it up. But I started last January, not this past January, but January before, I did a little challenge, and I started just playing around around with my space and what that would be like, because people had asked me honestly how they could practice with me if they couldn't come to live classes, and people were asking me for gentle and yin yoga and really very beginner yoga and maybe even chair yoga. And that's how I got started. And then I started doing some Facebook Live tutorials for Mom and Nurture and on my own pages for yoga teachers. And I put those inside often my courses. And then I just started thinking I need to come up with a plan and a system to add these to YouTube. So I started just like I recommend other people start, is just throw it out there, just start and figure out the rest later. And so that's what I did. And then over the last year, I spent some time doing more research. I got kind of like, where do I really want to show up? Do I really want to show up on Instagram? Do I really want to show up on Facebook? Do I want to just really worry about my website? What about my email list? And oh gosh, now there's this, how do I do all this? So I decided through lots of study and courses that YouTube was a good place for me. And over the last few months, for sure, deep diving with my YouTube coach and the person whose course I took, which is Sunny Lenarduzzi. I'd love to shout her out. And that's when it really started to change. And I knew about SEO. I didn't know nearly as much as I know now, but I hadn't really been applying all of that. So now that all just kind of, started crystallizing over the last year.
Okay. I'm typing in Sunny's information in the chat so that people can look her up if they're interested in sort of getting that really deep dive of just general YouTube. But I know that you have a course coming up, and that is specifically tailored towards people who teach online, right? Because Sunny's course is great for just general YouTube information, but yours is tailored to people who are teaching yoga, fitness, dance, all those things.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And what else? We can talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I would say if I would have taken the offering of hers that I took in the last 6 months, a year ago, I would have been completely overwhelmed. I wouldn't have been ready for it. So I started thinking this would be a really great way to get people over the fear of the perfection that's required. So yeah. And really as you know, you and I both have been helping teachers from all over the world get online and get their tech worked out, because you and I and Nikki Cotton, we're all friends in this, have been doing this for a long time, teaching online. And I've learned over the last couple of years how to really kind of have an eye on whatever you're creating. So as a content creator, and I love doing that, now I'm in a place where as I create content, I'm thinking, what all platforms might I want this on, and how can I best spend my time doing it in this platform? Let's say we're talking about Zoom, in a way that I might be able to repurpose it later. And we'll get more into this as we go through this conversation, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take that video and post it. So that's really what got me thinking about it, because now we have teachers all over the world that are creating this. If they're teaching 3 or 4 classes a week, they're just getting this awesome video, a library of videos. So it really got me thinking, I want to help teachers get over the fear of YouTube and really understand how it can support them and help grow their community.
Yeah. So why YouTube over another platform? I know there's Vimeo. I'm not even sure what other ones are out there, but why did you like YouTube, or why did you kind of dive into that platform over the others?
For me, particularly, it was a platform I already knew. But what I would say to other teachers is it's free. It's the second largest search engine in the world for the internet. It is not a social media platform. It's a search engine. It is owned by the largest search engine in the world. So not being there is kind of like, not knowing who the leaders are in your industry. You know, it's such a no-brainer to me, and I think people get overwhelmed at all of the idea of the tech to it. But I think whether you are planning to ever put your videos public or not, it's a great way to be able to share content.
So talk about the difference between unlisted, public, private, because you said that something about even if you don't want to share it, and then, you know, then why would you put it there, kind of thing. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I've had a lot of questions from teachers about, now that they've got all these live online classes and many people are recording them, like, so that they can share them with their students later. And YouTube kind of makes it confusing because the options are public, private, or unlisted. And a public video just means you put it up, anyone can see it. Private means, well, let me go back to private. Unlisted is a way, and this is inside YouTube settings. So if you're not familiar with this, it's really simple. When you go to upload a video, it asks you these things. Unlisted means that you can create a custom URL, or YouTube creates a custom URL for you to that video, just like it does for any video. But the only people who can see that video are the people that you've given that link to. So it's not exactly private because people can see it if they have the link. And I'll get back to this, but this is how I recommend that people do it, and have several reasons why. The other option, and I did a video on this recently, so later when you put all these notes in the description so people can find all the things that we're going to refer to, you can put it there, because I had so many questions on this. I finally just did a video on it the other day. But to make a video private, there are quite a few steps involved, and I'll give you two things that kind of make it difficult. One, you can only invite 50 people to view it, which might be fine, but I do know yoga teachers who have like at least 100 people showing up to their classes. Mm-hmm. And you have to share it with them by putting their email address into YouTube, and then that has to be their email address of their YouTube login. They don't have to have a channel, but they have to have a YouTube account. So it's a lot of extra steps for users to have to do.
For private.
For private.
Okay.
And so that leads to a question, and I don't know if you want me to go into that, but there are a lot of extra steps in that. And the reason it came up is teachers were asking me, well, hey, if I just share the link, can't they just share that link? And then that person can share that link. And it's true. Anyone who has that link can view that video. And then there's a discussion we can have a little bit deeper into that. If you want to go there, we can move on to something else.
Right.
What do you think?
So let me make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. If you set it as private, then only the person with that email address that you gave permission can see it from their email address, from their account logged in with their email address. So they can't share that link and someone else can see it. But if you share it unlisted, then the link goes to it no matter from where. But if they do private, and then their person that they think is having access has a different email address than the one maybe that they use, because I use different email addresses for when I want to get information or when I want to log into something. So then I might inadvertently be locked out. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way the workflow goes is you add the person's email to a little pop-up box, you add their email, and you would have to do this for every video. And then you email them the link to that email address that you said, YouTube, it's okay if this person with this email address who has to also have a YouTube account. It can't, and a lot of people don't want to have a YouTube account. It's just like they don't want to have a Zoom account. They just want to be able to. And then you email it to that address, and they have to click that link from inside that email in order to access it. And if they share that in a message or on a Facebook page or anywhere else, and somebody clicks the link, it will just say, not found. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there might be times that somebody might want to use that, but in the conversation we're having today, I just want to encourage teachers to use Unlisted.
Right. So the private might work best for someone who's doing, say, a yoga therapy session or a private dance where they know they don't want anyone else to have access. maybe.
Yeah.
But
that could be a privacy issue too, just making sure that if you haven't, that nobody else can stumble upon that.
Right.
And as long as they have a YouTube account, it really shouldn't be that big of a deal, because even though there's in YouTube, and I won't go much further into this just because people are probably like, what does this even do? But inside YouTube, once you upload a video, there are 2 steps you have to do to make it private. You have to go to where you would normally grab the link to share. You have to do that, copy it, and then you have to go to a different place that says share privately, and you click that. It asks you what emails you want to do, and then you have to separately go email that person that link.
Okay.
But that would be not so cumbersome if you were doing it for a private lesson.
Right. So for private, then maybe that might be an option. Are there any downsides to having it unlisted as opposed to private?
Yeah, I get this question. Yeah, I get this question a lot too. So this is really good questions. So there's a conversation that's been going around, and I have my views on it. You and I have actually talked about this a little bit, in that here's the way the scenario goes. I was a yoga teacher teaching at a studio. People were coming to my classes and they were paying for a package or whatever. And now I'm teaching online. People are paying for that class. And I want to share with them the link to that class in case they couldn't show up at that time, so they want to watch the replay. And I don't really see a downside there. Teachers have asked me, well, they paid for that. What if someone gets access to that link for free? And I think when you get that far down the rabbit hole of thinking about that, there might be some work that can be done, thinking, like, kind of getting out of a space and just being like,
maybe
the worst
practice the paragraph.
Yeah, and if there's some, and I think too, some people are coming at that from, somebody paid for this and I don't want someone else to be getting it for free, and that doesn't seem fair. And to me, it's like, if the worst thing that happens is someone shares your class with someone and it helps them, I think another apprehension that people have about that is if they're teaching online, depending on what country they're in, they've had the person sign a waiver, and there's some insurance issues that can come up there with that link getting out there. But I'm an attorney and I'm not giving legal advice, I have to say that. But if someone got a hold of that link in a way that they didn't pay for it and they weren't supposed to have access to it, and they went and did the video and they got hurt somehow, I don't think that you would be liable. But remember, people can sue you for anything. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. Like, just because you can't be sued. So that could be an issue, but I think it really just goes in the transparency and the messaging to your students, in that, hey, this is a link that's not meant to be shared, due to liability reasons. If people are wanting to really make sure that gets locked down and people don't share it, then I think if you put that in, or even add that into your waiver, that they're agreeing not to share that with people that outside of the class. Yeah, I think that could be one way to handle that.
No, that's good. Well, what about waivers? while we're there, how do you feel about waivers? So let's say you have people sign up and they're taking your class and they're signing a waiver, but then you make it unlisted, or it's unlisted and only the people who are taking it signed up got access. But then, say maybe a couple of months down the road, you decide to make it public. What do you do about waiver in that sense? And we don't really need to go and have a big conversation about insurance and all of that. And if people have questions about that, they can reach out. But just generally about waivers.
Really pretty simple. And this goes to another conversation that's good for me to say this. When you put your video in the public domain, which is like YouTube, but actually before I go there, let me say this. Some teachers are saying, I don't feel like I can ever share any of this publicly because people paid for this. And although I respect the ethics of that, I think in yoga, one thing I love is that some of us are just like overly ethical to the point that we kind of don't even have a common sense conversation. So let me walk through this real quick. When you go to take a yoga class somewhere, you go and you show up and you get to take that class. You don't get to say, hey, can I have the playback of a 7 o'clock yin yoga class that I missed? You don't have that option. So you're offering them a playback of something that they're not, there's value there, obviously, and they've paid for it. But they showed up for the class, and the promise of a replay is kind of a bonus in the online world. And I look at it kind of like you go to a movie when it comes out and you pay, and you go home and you can't watch it right then. But if I don't want to pay for the movie, I'm going to wait 3, 6 months, a year for it to come out on Netflix. I'm going to get to see it for free. Okay. But I had to wait for it to come out. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And I think if teachers are going to share any part of their Zoom video on YouTube or whatever live platform they're doing, if they're going to share that later on YouTube, there needs to be transparency. There needs to be a conversation. There needs to be something that maybe says 30 days or more after this class airs, it partially or fully may be made public on, maybe made available in a public venue. And I would probably just say YouTube or wherever you think you might put it.
Right.
And I think I think that's okay, because we don't have an expectation for things to never be available again. And there are a lot of ways to repurpose your content that don't take it straight from there to YouTube. That's going to come in more when we're talking about privacy issues. Like if you've recorded people in gallery view, you can't just go put that on YouTube. You shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because that's a big question that I see all the time in the dance world, especially because in the dance world, we're dealing with people's children. And so when they teach, they definitely want to be in gallery view because they need to be able to see them. But then if they record it, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, I would recommend, if you're going to share something, that you don't share it publicly ever with the people in it. I mean, if they've given you a video release, you could, but it's kind of clunky to share like that anyway for the viewer to watch back. When you have children involved, I would definitely encourage people. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but YouTube has a policy about kids. I would say if there are kids involved, I might even share those privately. I might find a way to just tell all the moms that, or I shouldn't just say moms, all the parents and custodians, and that, they might want to have a YouTube account so that it can be emailed privately. Because I do think that a link floating around out there, and then people being able to maybe see kids. And I tend to be, even as a lawyer, sometimes I do the thing that's so ethical that it's more ethical than even what the law requires. Yeah. But especially when it comes to kids, I try to be really careful about that. And otherwise, with adults, I think in certain circumstances, you could get a video release. This all goes back to having a conversation with your folks, with your people, and being transparent with them. And I mean, I've gone to trainings before, and in my waiver, it has a photog release. And if people don't want to sign it, and if they don't want to sign it, then they will tell me. I've had this happen before, and somebody said I don't want to be in any photos. So I had to, it changed the way I did things, but it was fun because I'm not going to force people to do that. They get to say no.
Yes, of course. And when you know that, you can have them placed in a certain area when it's a live training. But so I know that we all do this, so we can just go ahead and talk about it, about recording it on a different device for sharing, so that you kind of alleviate those issues altogether. So talk a little bit about that and how that works for you.
So this developed through conversations that Nikki and I were having. And if y'all don't know Nikki, she's an awesome yoga teacher, teaches fitness yoga, and she's also one of our best friends. When she started working for an online platform that I was involved in too, and almost went to work for them, she started refining the way that she was doing things. And she's actually the one who said to me, doing a separate recording gives you a backup. and a cleaner recording if you do it front facing. So the way this looks, and I know we worked on having a video of this, but we weren't able to pull it up. But what I'm going to do is just
I'm going to see if I can screen share.
Okay, so you've got your Zoom video. Let's say that you are looking at, make a little square. I'm not really good at squares. There we go. Okay. So let's say this is your Zoom, and it's sitting somewhere that you're on your mat and you can see, and this is your view into your Zoom, and you've got it where you can see your students maybe in gallery view. And then right above that, you can have your phone or other camera or other device. I like to use my iPhone because it has really, really good quality. And then you record yourself teaching that class separately on that device in non-selfie mode. I'll say front facing, and people don't know what that means, but in non-selfie mode. So let's just say when I go to record my class, I've got I use my iPad usually. I've got my iPad here, and that's when I'm doing the Zoom. And then I've got my phone above that, and I have a couple of different tripods that I use for that kind of stuff. And you can find tripods easily, and we can share some links to those. But it's not connected. This is one thing that really confuses people. It is not connected to Zoom at all. Yeah, so were you able to pull it up? Okay, cool. Yeah, that was my space. Yeah, so that's what my students are seeing on a live Zoom, and that is also what is in the frame of my video recording. And several reasons why, even if you're going to go ahead and record on Zoom, it's great to have a backup. The Zoom video quality is not great, especially depending on what kind of internet connection you have. So recording it separately, iPhones, and I don't know much about other devices, but my husband used to have a phone, I think it was an Android, and its camera was, I think, even better, for sure, for still shots. So that gives you something that you can edit, and you're working from a really clean copy. And then you don't have the risk of it crapping out, for one thing. I mean, unless it goes dead. This is another tip, and I may not have put this on my bullet points that I sent you. Have a plug-in nearby to anything you're recording on. And if you can, have it plugged in while you're recording. And I do it for Zoom and for my phone when sometimes not on my phone, depending on what mic I'm using, but make sure you have a charge. And it really takes it. Then you wouldn't even have to record the Zoom if you didn't want to. I usually record both just so that just to be safe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I really have to credit Nikki with that because she came up with that configuration that we're all using now. And it works great. And then we've got that recording. Sometimes I use them and sometimes I don't, but then I can just pop that right over to YouTube. You know, I don't do it right away if it's something, like we said, I usually say 30 days later or whatever, but if it was from a live class. But when I record my tutorials and anything like that, I record with my iPhone on a tripod front facing.
Yes,
really
I do that too now, thanks to you. Yeah, I do that.
I love that.
Thanks to you and Nikki. And I also record my Zoom. So I record the Zoom and my phone. And one time I was teaching and I had forgotten to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and a call came in and it cut my phone recording. And so if I didn't have that Zoom recording, I wouldn't have been able to send the replay to the people who took the class that I promised them that I send them a replay. And so for me, it was great to have that. Now, I didn't put that Zoom on YouTube for anyone else because I had the gallery and there were people, but at least the people who signed up for my class had that replay. So that's another thing to think about.
I think and that's another thing that's I'm working on a little checklist for online recording and repurposing. Put if you're recording, whatever you're using for Zoom or a separate recording, if it's a device like that can get notifications, just put it on Do Not Disturb. Just put them all on Do Not Disturb. So nothing like that. That's happened to me before too. It happened the other day and I was like, so
yeah,
good stuff. Yeah, Do Not Disturb for sure.
So, talk about just some of the things to keep in mind. If you're teaching your class like you normally do, but you think, oh, maybe down the road I might want to use it on YouTube. What are some things that people can do to sort of make that repurposing a little easier?
Yeah. So, and this goes for really whether you're going to repurpose or not, having your clothes that you're wearing a contrast to your mat. So maybe if your mat, like mine is dark blue that I usually use, then I'll wear something a little lighter or something. So because you don't want to blend into your mat. And then also, and this would apply to yoga. So if you're a dance teacher, you might not have a mat, but I recommend wearing contrasting top and bottom as well, because especially with movement, and if they're subtle movements, it might be easier for a student to see you. If you have orange bottoms and a black top and you're doing something with your hip, maybe that's kind of subtle, that they'll be able to see that better. So those for sure, whether you're Zoom or recording. And then another good thing to do is to set yourself up to get some sort of screenshot so that you can have a dedicated thumbnail for that video. So a dedicated, just something of you doing something in those clothes that you're wearing in that video. And also, so when we're teaching live Zoom classes, sometimes we have to leave our mat. And I know some teachers don't, some of us, and I do, it depends on what I'm teaching, sit close where I can really see people, and then I only get up to teach certain things. And some of us teach the whole thing on a mat. I think it really depends on what kind of thing that you're teaching. But let's say that you're teaching a class from your mat and you need to get up and check a comment, or somebody's in the waiting room of your Zoom and you need to let them in. So, so I would say, oh, Courtney just popped in a comment. Squirrel, I got distracted. She said, that's great about the top and bottom. So what I do if I have to get up and do that is, and this takes time, you'll get used to thinking, you'll get to where it's easier to think of these things. I will find a position that I can leave, that I can sit in for a couple of seconds, maybe 3 to 5 seconds while the students are doing whatever, or maybe I'm just in that posture. And then I go do the thing, and then I go right back to that posture, because that's really easy to cut and paste or just clip that little piece out and edit it together, and you can sort of dissolve in and dissolve out, and you don't have your repurposed video having you walking back and forth.
That's a great idea. What else can you do? You told me a tip about clapping your hands. Talk about that a little bit, about to help you find your spot.
And it's funny because I learned that from Sunny, and I should have known that. I've been a recording artist for a long time. I've been recording music, and that, I don't know why I never thought of that. But yeah, so when you're looking at a recording on playback, if you've pulled it into some kind of editor, there's going to be a sound line that shows where the sound wave is. And so if you have to stop and start in the middle of something, let's say you're recording a tutorial, and this would really apply more to just recordings and not necessarily live classes, but you just clap your hands really loud 3 times or a couple of times. And then when you go back and look at that in editing, and that's going to spike, and it's going to help you find that spot so that you can just cut, you can do that slice and delete and slice and delete. And then you're right where you need to be. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones lately, because I have the habit of I'm like, oh no, start over. I don't want to have to edit it. So that's a really good one.
That is a great one, because from my days in journalism and commercial acting and things like that, we would say, before we slated or before we did anything, we would say 3, 2, and then do our thing. But that's so much easier to find for editing when you can see the hands and you can see the spike. So that's beautiful. I
love the idea of, sorry.
Go ahead.
Had a delay. I was just going to say, I love the idea too of just finding that spot, like what you just said. And I'll do that. You'll notice this if you do my Facebook lives, that I'll do the things and say hello to everybody and chat. And then I'll go sit on my mat and I'll say, welcome to class today. We're going to do the, I go ahead and have that intro in case I'm going to repurpose that. And some people might be like, that's weird because we just talked to her for 5 minutes. But it's little things like that you can do it. This will make it a lot easier. Some of you may be thinking, I'm never going to share anything. Well, you might, and anyway, had another thought, but I'll let you ask me whatever you're about to ask me and see if we get back there.
Yeah, well, I think of what you said about going back and sitting and then starting after you've just had that conversation. I do that too. And it does feel a little awkward and funny at first, but part of what makes the online teaching live so beautiful is being able to have that connection, being able to sit and chat before the class and after the class and have the check-ins and things like that. But yeah, so if you are going to repurpose it, you need to kind of have that reset for it to be a replay. And I think people who are taking live understand that, and they know it, and they've seen your replays because they're taking your classes. So I think that's, it's fine. And everyone in this space, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and if you do it, you kind of get used to doing it to where there's more ease to it. And, I did I think last Friday night's yen class, I got up a couple times and looked at something, and I just, once it's front of mind, and then when I went to splice that, it was super easy because I knew there were going to be, you need about 3 to 5 seconds to really be able to get a clean break. And it's not that you could never put a video on YouTube with you going and coming and whatever, but it's just, if you have
I do it all the time.
Yeah, if you have the option, though, to edit that out, it's nice. And another thing that I was thinking about with respect to teachers who are maybe, like my friend Stacy in London, she is a Vini yoga teacher. I love her class. She's amazing, Stacy Landau. And she teaches sitting, she's been with these students for a really long time, and she likes to sit and really watch them on gallery, and she verbally cues, and it's really beautiful the way that she does that, and she feels like more connected to them when she's seeing them like that. And so in a situation like that, where yes, you might want to share that replay with them just as you did it, because if somebody missed it, they could just as easily do it, just like the students who showed up for the Zoom. But something else that you could do if you're a teacher who teaches like that is you could save the outline of your class or create one. A lot of times I don't do outlines of classes, but you could separately, using your camera device, do a little recording of you doing the class, either with audio, or you could do a voiceover later, but just you doing the class. And that could be something that you could share on YouTube, or you could also share that with your students because they might enjoy being able to watch you do it as well. So that's another way that you could repurpose without necessarily, and then you don't have the privacy issues as well.
Yeah, and that's great because you may have some people who are visual learners who seeing you do that might work better for them than having you sit and talking them through it, even though, that's the way a lot of people like to teach, but maybe there are some people who receive it better by watching you do it. And they've practiced with you enough and heard your voice enough to know what you're trying to say in that way too. So that's a great idea. Also, yeah, it's sort of a little bit of extra time, but you're not having to create this whole class because you've already created the class. Then you're just doing it in another way. So that's a really great idea. That's a great tip. Let's talk about sound.
Oh gosh, I love that. Well, speaking of sound, before I go into that, another thing you can do if you're not using anything external in terms of mics or speakers, and that's totally fine to do. Many times I record using just my iPhone microphone or just the microphone out of my iPad. So you don't have to have fancy tech. Now, if you're in a bigger room, if you're in a dance studio or something, then that's going to be a little bit different consideration. So if any of you are in that space and you want to drop a comment in or a question, that will help guide kind of what I talk about. But definitely you want to turn off any ambient noise. So like if you have a washer or dryer or dishwasher or your unit, like your AC unit, I have a little heater over in the corner. I always turn it down. Just anything that will compete with your voice, especially with Zoom, because Zoom is optimized to get the highest sound, to get the loudest sound that it's hearing. And then, so audio. the built-in microphone on, like I said, on the iPhone, and I don't really know about other phones, but I feel like they're probably similar. I will say this. I have a really good laptop. It's a Lenovo Yoga. It's practically brand new. It's very high quality, and the speaker output on it and the mic input, where, what comes from when I speak and it goes into the computer, it's not the best. The mic is better than the speakers. So, I mean, that's good. But I like to use my iPad and my iPhone because I know if I have to, I can not even have to worry about it, extra audio. I have about, for that picture you showed earlier that shows where I teach, my devices are between 9 and 10 feet from that. So my iPhone that's recording is behind my iPad, and they're both about 9.5 feet or so from my mat. So that kind of gives you an idea. And I can teach a class if I'm cognizant of keeping my voice at the same level. I can teach and be heard just fine. What happens to me is when I teach like a yin class, by the end of the night, I'm like, by the end of the hour, like, and now, and then, yeah, so that at the end of the class, I'm going, okay, breathe deeply, take in everything, like you just, and there's like, I feel like I'm yelling yoga, it just doesn't feel right. So, yeah. But you can just use those. You can use those things if you're shooting on a laptop. Sometimes having an external webcam will help because it will have a separate microphone. So that gives your computer doesn't have two jobs to do. It gives it one of the jobs to the webcam. And Pamela has links to, I think, I don't know if I sent you my links to the gear that I use, but I will make sure you have that.
And we'll post all the links in the comments, and so that you'll have links to her YouTube and all of her information, but also to some of the different products that she uses. And while I'm talking about comments, I forgot to tell you guys that we have a giveaway. So if you post a comment, any kind of question, or just to let me know you're here, I will put your name in a box and do a drawing, and then I will post the winner's name after we're all done. I'll look at all the comments, write your name down, put it in a box, and make a drawing. And the winner will receive a 1-hour strategy session to look at your online teaching setup, help with audio, lighting, sound, how to best utilize your space, and what to think about when you're creating your content for online classes. That is a really big value. I know that those sessions are not cheap, and I appreciate that for our listeners. Rena, thank you for that. And so, so make sure you make a comment so you can get in the drawing and ask your questions. If you want to come on live instead of commenting, you can follow the link that you see on the screen now, and we'll count that. So if you come on live, you also get in the drawing for a free strategy session. So, going back to talking about, I forgot where we were.
Audio,
yes.
We're talking about audio. So I've tried out a lot of things. And what I want to say to you about audio is if your students are complaining that they can't hear you, if they can hear you and everything's working fine and you're just getting used to teaching online, then just go with that for now. But if they're having trouble hearing you, then there are lots of different things that you can do and use. It really depends on what device you're recording on, and whether it's iOS or whether it's like a Mac or PC, or if it's a mobile device. And then I have a lot of recommendations on that. I've tried out the Hey Mic. I've tried out, and I have I feel like I have a graveyard of these. I do use them all. I've tried out the Smart Mic. Pamela's been my guinea pig on a lot of these. And I won't get deep into that, but what I would say is if they can't hear you, the first thing I would try is if if you can, if it works with your device, wireless earbuds that will let you hear them and them hear you. And I can help with that setup. If anybody needs me to help troubleshoot just any little thing, please feel free to DM me. I've been helping people from all over the world that have been commenting on that YouTube video about my setup. But also, a simple thing that you could do, though, if you're just like, I don't need to hear my students while I'm teaching, I just want to mute everybody and go stand on my mat, then an external mic that plugs into your mic input or your headset input that you place about halfway between your recording device and your space, like a condenser mic. An iRig is one, and Blue Yeti is one. That was a little more expensive, and then Blue Snowball, I think, is another one. There's quite a few. You can find them on Amazon. What I recommend is, take recommendations from people, but go read the reviews and see what gels with you. That if you're in a small enough space, I would say just do that, because you're not going to have to screw with like a Bluetooth thing, or there's everything that you add that's wireless or has batteries, like wireless receiver. A lot of people are using like the Rode Go wireless receiver, and that's fine. I just prefer things that don't have separate battery packs, and like I don't want to put up more roadblocks that might that might cause a problem. But you can definitely, you have lots of options there. So inside my course, we will go through all different audio setups for that in my YouTube for Online Teachers course that will be coming up.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
If anyone has a question about audio, drop it.
Yeah, and so also what I was going to kind of add to that, and I feel like you do the same thing, is I use different sound options depending on what I'm doing. And you kind of alluded to that a little bit about, if you don't need to hear people, you can just plug in. So I have like a really very inexpensive but good quality lavalier mic that if I'm just doing a meditation, or if I'm sitting and I'm making a video, I use that. But then if I need to interact, I'll use earbuds. And so there are tons of options. I think that it's good to know that you don't have to get one thing and stick to it. You can change it up depending on what you're doing. We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Let's see. We would love more information on the setup of camera, computer, and mirroring students during live teaching. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
From J.L. Gade. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
Hey there. Thanks for stopping by for a question. It's good to see you on here. So in terms of mirroring, so there's two kinds of mirroring. There's mirroring where when we teach, the student's doing the left side and we're doing the right side. And then there's mirroring of the camera. So if you're still there where you can comment, let me know which mirroring you're talking about. So when you record when you go live on Zoom, inside the Zoom settings, there is a way to tell it to mirror. And it's in video. It's under, when you log into your Zoom account online, this is where I do it. It also is probably in settings through your app or inside a meeting. Then you go to recording, and then, I'm sorry, not recording. You go to video, and then there may be one if you keep scrolling down, and there will be an option in there for mirroring. If that's not what you're asking, let me know.
Yeah, and I know that we've done this before. So one thing you can do is get into your Zoom, get a friend to Zoom with you, and literally hold up your hand and say, which hand do you see, which hand are you holding up, and how do I see it, and how am I seeing yours back? Because that can be really confusing. Yeah. So do you have any other hints on that, on like language you can use to just avoid that altogether?
Well, one thing that so it kind of depends on why the question is being asked, but one thing that bothers me is I don't like seeing myself and not being in a mirror. Like, so on Zoom, if it's not where like I raise my right arm and it shows like the student that would be raising their left arm, it drives me crazy. I don't want to see it like that, because I've been teaching mirrored as a teacher for a long time. So, I mean, that's the way I was trained. So I don't say right arm and I do my right arm, But Courtney and I used to joke about this because I would sit up front with her and she would be mirroring to the class. So I would have to unmirror to be with her. It was just funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know my left or my right. But what I would say is it's easier actually did she respond?
She did. She says, funny enough, I'm talking about both because as I'm taking classes, I've noticed that depending on the device that the student are using, some of their cameras are flipping their pictures.
Yeah, I've noticed in the recent years that I don't think as many people are being trained to teach mirrored. I don't know why. It really drives me crazy. Pamela can get this because she's a dance teacher. We both have fitness, and I'm a fitness teacher, and I used to teach a bar training that I developed, and I don't understand. But if you were never in that world, I can see how it's just like, well, it's the right hand, it's fine. For some students, that is really distracting, though, to them. So you don't have to say right and left, though. What's cool about teaching online is you can say, it doesn't really matter unless you're really micromanaging them on gallery view. It doesn't really matter which side they do first. They're not seeing each other. They're not seeing each other in a room, so it's less confusing to them. So you could just sometimes I'll say, no, usually online I'll just say start with one side, and then I'll explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. Sometimes I turn around because if I have, let's say I'm in a low lunge on the floor, and I want them to see my back leg being forward because that's the open, and that's probably a performer thing too. Like you don't turn your
don't open.
And then I usually will take myself to the other end of the mat, especially if I'm teaching a bar class. But I think online it's kind of cool because you can just say, remember which side you did. So if you're somebody who teaches sequences that has a lot on one side, like you're doing warrior 2 and then extended side angle and then triangle and then warrior or half moon, and then you have to remember all that on the other side. You might just want to make sure, and you're doing stuff in between, then if you remind them, hey, remember which side you're on, so that when we do the other side later, you'll know where to start. I hope that's what.
Yeah, I think that she said that. And thank you for your question and sharing. And she says, same, I teach mirrored, so this is why it confuses me. And I started. Yeah, I started taking right and left out of my vocabulary when I did my yoga therapy training. And so that was an easy transition for me to make online and really because I had been doing it in class. But I know it can feel strange. One of the things I say to people is when we go to the next side, if you can't remember which side you did, do the one that feels awkward, because usually people will pull the comfortable side first, or whatever handed they are or whatever. So that's what I always say. So we have another question. Oh, go ahead.
I was say you can have them refer. You could have students look at their space and say, what's to your left, what's to your right. Like if you have a window on one side and a wall on the other, then they just know in their own language. Okay, I'm doing the arm that's near the wall. I'm doing the arm that's near and that'd be something helpful to tell your students. That's another idea of content that you could create to send in an email. Just say, hey, students, these may be things that you find different about online teaching. There's so many little nuggets you can pull out.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. So we have another question from Sarah. Thank you, JL, for all of your questions and comments. What do you recommend for figuring out the best lighting for the space available? I'm teaching from my daughter's bedroom, and the lighting leaves a big shadow on my face.
Yeah, so the best place to start with lighting is to not have light behind you. So, and I'm going to just turn my, if I can do this without making all these wires nonsense fall. You can see if I go over and open those curtain, and those are blackout curtains, believe it or not, and I have that behind me, it's completely washes me out and creates shadows everywhere. So you ideally want, if you have natural light, that's fine. Just have it from the side if possible. And if you can, have a light source in front of you. So if you could face a window in a way that it wouldn't blind you, because sometimes, light coming in can be, then you don't want to be like, I can't see. And then other than that, there are a ton of floor lamps that you could get. I would just say place one on each side or in front, or behind the camera. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. Behind the camera, not behind you. And Pamela has a great one. I don't know if you're anywhere near that one that has all these little spikes like this. And it has a light for each thing, and then you can pull them, and it's really cool.
I'm all tethered. I'm all plugged in because I took your advice. And so I can't pick mine up and turn it around. But it's one of those, and I got it at a yard sale for like $2, I think. It's one of those light lamps. It's a floor lamp, and it has all these little, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 5 different bulbs, and they're kind of on these movable wire things.
Almost like a microphone stand, kind of.
Yeah, and so I just kind of adjust them however I want to, to give me the light I want. And so, and the room that I'm in now, there's a window in front of me, and there's a window to the side of me. And that's a little less than ideal because you can see some of that light hitting my glasses. But yeah.
That's good. Other than that, Sarah, when it's really good to see you on here, Sarah, I miss seeing you. So right now I have a couple of studio lights on me. I have a big ring light to one side and another. In fact, I'll just show you this one. This one's not. See, you never know. It's right there off to the side. I can't really pull the other one over here because it's kind of big. So I have another one like this that's bigger. But you don't need all of these things. I mean, literally, you could get a floor lamp with a bulb and you just have to test it. And one thing that you can do to test that is take your iPhone and just walk around, or whatever phone you have. I assume everybody has an iPhone. You can put it in selfie mode and just kind of take yourself around the room, put it in selfie video mode, and sort of do this and just notice where the light's the best. And if you are in a situation like in your daughter's bedroom where you're like, I've got this one spot, I can't be moving the mat, this is how it is, then see how you can pull some lights either to the side or behind your camera.
Yeah, that's a really great thing.
That
to
was
know.
on our lighting was on our list.
Definitely. I think as far as my experience is when I'm taking a class, sound is the most important thing. If the sound is bad, I'm going to do sound. The lighting is a little more forgiving. If I can hear you and I can see you okay, you don't have to have fancy studio lighting. Your people just want to be with you. But yeah,
totally.
But it is
sound.
It is nice,
important.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about music or no music, and how you kind of deal with that.
Okay. It's funny, Pamela, before we jumped on here, Nikki and I were testing out another iteration of our, the three of us have been on a journey of music exploration and how to make this work best. So yes. Off the top, I would say this. For yoga, consider just not using music. It can be really fun to create a playlist and send it to your students and say, hey, if you have a way to have this on in the background, or just pick a playlist, because if it's not going to be broadcast, then it doesn't matter. So pick a playlist off some source and share that with them. And I started doing this when I'm taking yoga online lately. I don't normally, but I was like, well, let me just throw some music in the background and see. And I do really enjoy it. And it sounds really good because it's right in my room. And as long as you are muting everybody, and in case you guys don't know this, if you're doing Zoom on desktop, or on laptop or Mac or whatever, you can do Alt-M to mute everybody but you, and Alt-M to unmute everybody. So that's a quick tip, so you don't have to go hunting for the little thing. So if you have ever, and on a Mac, I think it's Control Command M, something like that.
Probably Command M.
I have a list of those in our freebie that we did for the online training. And then, so that's my first thing. If though you are teaching and you just you can't live without having music, then it gets a little more complicated. It's going to depend on what device you're using. So the most available options to do things with music will be through PC or Mac. And that's for having like an inline kind of music where they're hearing it really clearly. Pamela and I have both played around with, and she's done a better job than I have in using it in her bar classes with having an external mic. Do you want to speak to that a little bit? Or, I mean, not mic, but speaker?
Sure. Yeah. So I use what's called a Windbridge S92 Pro, and it's a speaker. I should have brought it in. I didn't think about it. But it's a speaker. It's about this big, and then it has a headset. It's kind of cheesy because it's straight up Madonna's out of 1982, or 5 or whatever. But it gives really great sound. I can get into down dog and do all kinds of things, and you can't hear it. And I can Bluetooth my music through it. So my music and my voice are coming out of the same speaker. And the other thing I love about it is I put it by my devices. So that sound is going to my Zoom, but it's also going to my phone recording. So as opposed to something where it plugs straight into the one unit, then you only get that sound into the one unit. So I love it because of that. You know, it has its downfall too, but generally, you know,
I mean, that's
my best option.
And I think it's been working for your bar classes. You know, if people are wanting like a really clean music sound, and I don't know if anybody that's on here right now really cares about music, so if y'all want to talk about something else, let us know. But what I did discover, so the other day, Pamela and I were playing around with my wireless earbuds. Are a great option for this, everybody. I mean, really, really a good option. I'm having issues using them, not related to the earbuds themselves, but we tested the other day. You know, I have a smart mic, I have a Hey mic. The music issue with any of those gets a little bit tricky, but we tested my earbuds with music that you share through Zoom. And if y'all don't know how to do this, you probably know how to share a screen in Zoom. You can go in there to share a screen and click share computer audio. And then what it will do is it'll share the music like straight from Spotify, and it's a lot cleaner. So we tested this the other day, and I couldn't get my earbuds to work where I could hear the music and Pamela. But right before this call, Nikki and I tested hers, and we were able to dial it in to where she had her Spotify shared, or Pandora or something. She had her earbuds in, which I think are Soundcores, and she got the music where it was perfect volume. I could hear her and she could hear me. She was hearing me and speaking through these, and it was really, really good. So that's something that we just tested out. So we can drop that link in here too. Now, if you're trying to do any of this from iPad or iPhone, the bringing music into the mix gets really complicated, especially if you need to hear the students or have them hear you and the music. If you're trying to do that through the computer or the device itself, you would have to have like a jumper of some kind. So, and I know most of you aren't trying to be that fancy, but if anybody wants to get into that, I will go into some of those options when we get to, if anybody wants to do the YouTube course with me. So we'll talk about that.
Sure. Yeah.
Anybody else have questions? Anything that we're not thinking?
Slippery love. Let's see. Yes. Courtney asked, can you talk about how to get paid for online classes and what y'all are doing? So how are you monetizing your YouTube?
Oh, my YouTube? Is that what she's asking? She said how to get paid for online classes.
Oh, for online classes.
No, I feel we were kind of going back and forth between YouTube and online because we're talking about how to repurchase. Yeah, but since we do have people on here probably wondering that, Pamela and I can both chime in on this. If I were doing, so this month, and this is a good way for me to tell y'all this month I'm doing Thursday and Friday. Thursday mornings I'm doing a wake up workout. I love teaching fitness. I haven't been able to do it in a while. It's really easy fitness. And on Friday evenings, I do a yin yoga class, and they're both on Facebook Live. I have just, because I'm not doing them long term, I've done PayPal.me link for people to pay if they can. And otherwise, what I would use if I were doing it regularly, as of right now, I would use Schedulicity. Everything on Schedulicity, even their upgrades, are free until the end of June. July 1. So I highly recommend Schedulicity. Schedulicity has a waiver form integration. And the other one that I'm hearing people use is Acuity Scheduling. And somebody mentioned another one the other day that I can't think of. Pamela, what would you recommend?
I like Schedulicity. If you have a set rate and you know what you want to charge and you want people to just sign up and go. I also this month have been doing a pay what you can model because I want it to be accessible to everyone who needs it and wants it. And so I've been using PayPal, Venmo, and Square. And so I just will put the link. But I think if you're wanting something more seamless, doing a Schedulicity or Acuity, even Wix, if you have a Wix website, they have that integration now. So kind of investigate around that. But I know that Schedulicity, and even when I was paying for Schedulicity for the option for people to pay online, it was $5 a month because the Schedulicity scheduling is free all the time. It always has been. And then they have add-ons, different things. So that's a beautiful thing about Schedulicity too, is they only charge you for what you want to use. So you're not paying a big amount of money every month and then not using everything. It's $5 a month for the ability to take payment.
I think the email add-on is also $5, which right now everything's free. And that's nice because you can students who are just in a class, for a specific class or in a recurring class, or you can email all the students straight from the Schedulicity platform, which is really good, especially if you're not to a point where you have like a website and an email list. And I use Teachable for my online courses. So if I decide to continue these classes, I'll probably just do them in the Teachable platform. We'll see. I haven't decided yet. I wanted to jump back.
But thank you. I wanted to thank Courtney for her question too. Yeah. Yeah. So you were going to jump back.
Yeah, it was lingering in my mind because I didn't say this about music because we didn't talk about royalty free, like if you're going to repurpose it. We didn't talk about all that. So just suffice it to say that if you're going to use YouTube, go and read their community guidelines for sure, because you don't want to get kicked off or have your videos locked down. You can't just use, it's just like anywhere else. You can't just use music that's, where if you would have to pay performing rights organization for the music use in a studio, the same applies. So if you just go and put the latest Beyonce song in the background of your class that you're teaching on Zoom, and then you go put that on YouTube, they're probably going to pull it down because they have algorithms for that. So I don't want to get way down that rabbit hole, but inside that course, I will talk about options for how to do that. I know, Pamela, do you want to share with them the option that you've been using? Do you feel like that's a reliable one?
Well, sometimes. So I've been using royalty-free music, but occasionally when I find it, it'll say royalty-free, and then my videos will get snagged. So that is an ongoing effort to always be looking for that. That's another reason why teaching yoga, really the best option is to send people the link or the playlist and let them play it on their own. If you're teaching dance, one thing that you could do is teach the combination and then, let them know what song, have them practice it on their own, and then show you the combination. That gets tricky for dance teachers because I don't really know of a way to be able to use the types of music that we use when we're teaching dance on YouTube without some sort of flagging or blocking.
Yeah, that would make it difficult to repurpose for YouTube, but you could like you said, you could record the sequence. And I think for dance teachers, if that's something you haven't explored, I don't know if we have dance teachers on here, but they may be watching playback later. If you haven't explored putting your combinations on YouTube, I think that's a great way, especially once, a public performer, like obviously wouldn't want to do that if you're putting together a piece for competition or something that you don't want other people to see yet, but for later, I think that could be really cool.
But what you could do in your Zoom session, because I know we teach the combination without music, then we do it with the music, and then we work on it again without the music, and then we do it with the music. So what you could do is edit out those parts where you're not playing the music and make that your YouTube video, so that you can still get some mileage from it. And maybe that's something that you put on YouTube next year after the recital, and you say, hey, you want to learn this dance that we did in the recital? Here it is. I mean,
I would love that. I would.
Yeah. And there comes some questions about people stealing other people's choreography, and there's that too. So that, I think, is a personal decision about how confident you feel in your audience not doing that. But that would be one way to do that, would be to cut out the parts where you're doing it with the music. And again, you could use that tip of waiting 2 seconds in between starting the music and those kinds of things. Any other questions? If people want to pop them in, I will bring your question up, or if you want to come on with us live, you can come on and ask your question in person. We are talking about YouTube. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about YouTube and how you can repurpose your online classes to either gain visibility or money, or what are some of the other reasons why we want to repurpose our video content, Rena?
Well, I mean, it's a good way to make connections. It's a good way for people to get to get to know you without having to jump into your subscription or your membership site yet. They can see how you teach. I know for me, if teachers want to train with me, it's good for them to go and watch that. And I'll recommend go watch how I teach prenatal yoga and see what my thoughts are on it, and see if that's something that jives with you and how you feel you want to learn about it. And you can, let's talk about hashtags for YouTube.
Yes, let's talk about that. And I want to remind everybody, and Erin Snow says, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much. I want to remind you all, everyone who makes a comment will be put into a drawing for a free strategy session with Rena. So make sure you comment, let us know you're here. If you have questions, please pop those in there. And so hashtag.
Yeah, let's talk about hashtags. I kind of want to rapid fire a few things about YouTube real quick. So we've talked about a lot of stuff that will lead to YouTube, but we haven't talked really a lot about what I'm doing with YouTube. But that's okay, but we're going to serve the audience that shows up, so that's great.
Right.
But a couple of things: titling your video on YouTube. There's a lot of science behind that, but I would say go and just basic SEO. Go to Google and go to an incognito browser in Google, which is Shift-Control-N, if you can, because you're going to get more authentic results if you do that. Otherwise, go to Google, type in yoga for back care, and then it's going to bring up other things that people are searching, and then find something more specific. And this is just like super basic, but if you do this course, we'll go really deep into this. So let's say it's yoga for back care for sciatic pain. That might be a weird combination, but that is going to be better for a title. A clever title on YouTube really isn't a thing. Like, clever and cute isn't a thing. People aren't searching for that. So it's directly related. Google owns YouTube, remember. So it's directly related to what people are searching for. So if the worst thing that happened is that you put a title that was too broad and it was having a hard time being found, it's better than putting something really quirky that nobody's ever going to find in the history of the universe. That'd be my first tip on that. We'll talk about how to create video thumbnails. Another thing to do, whatever you've decided you're going to title your video, before you upload that file, name the file that. So if I've decided it's going to be yoga for back care for golfers, then I'm going to go look where I recorded that video. I'm going to do rename, and I'm going to change it exactly what it's going to be. And that's called metadata. I won't get deep into that. That's important. You can also name that. This helps it all be found. So this will all make sense later, but you might as well know this on the front end. So because a lot of stuff that I'm having to do is go back. But I'm going to get to hashtags. Hashtags on YouTube are not the same as social media. It's completely different. Hashtags in YouTube go in the description or the title. You don't want to put them in the title because it just wastes room. Your first 3 hashtags that you put anywhere in the description of the video, and you'll see this when you upload a video, you can have up to 15, I think, which I wouldn't do. I would do more like 5. The first 3 are going to float above your title on YouTube. So they're going to see that right above your little thing. If you put yoga for back care, yoga for golfers, and then your name or whatever your yoga brand is, those would be the things that I'd recommend you do, is to use your keywords, or use a keyword, which is something from your title, use something that is relevant, another thing that's relevant to your either video or your audience, and then your brand. And that's really important because that's going to, if I put hashtag Rena Wren, that's going to bump me way up in a Google search, not on YouTube even, but on Google. People are now going to YouTube. People are now going to YouTube and typing hashtag how to teach yoga, hashtag how to use Zoom, because we're just hashtag oriented. But that is not doing with an algorithm the same thing as a hashtag does on Facebook or Instagram. So that's really important to know. Another thing that I've heard that I think people are confused about, inside your YouTube video, when you upload it, there's a place that you can click to for more, and you can enter tags. That is not where to put your hashtags. They are not going to float if you put them in tags. Tags are for things related to SEO optimization. I won't go any deeper into that, but hashtags will be directly related to your keywords that are driving what you're naming your video, because that's what people are looking for, and it's very specific.
I do want to clarify though, in the tags in YouTube, in your description, and there's a separate section that says tags. You don't put the hashtag symbol there, right? But where do you put the hashtags? You put them in the description?
You put them in the description. They can go in the
with the hashtag?
Yes. So it'd be just like if you were on Instagram typing hashtag yoga for, or how to teach yoga on Zoom, hashtag, and no spaces. It has to actually be the hashtag. So what the YouTube algorithm does is it checks your description, and if there are any hashtags, it takes the first 3 and floats them above your video title. And I think a lot of people, I didn't realize people didn't know this. Why would you want to do that? Here's why. People are searching for stuff. So let's say that they just did an open YouTube search, how to teach Zoom. They didn't really know about hashtag research. They see your video and you have tagged how to use Zoom for yoga. They can click that hashtag and go find other relevant content. Now, it may it may recommend your content. It may recommend someone else's, but someone else also might have that hashtag, and it might put your video back in front of them. So it goes to recommended and suggested videos, and how it's just one. Now, I wouldn't put it up there in top 5 things to know about YouTube, but your description anyway, you might as well use it. And if you're using it like hashtag I'm a cute yogi, you're wasting your time. Like, that's, if you're gonna use it, know what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, that's
about SEO. I love it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. SEO scares me. It has for a few years now, and I'm just now kind of trying to understand it. So I can't wait for your course, because I really need all that help too. So what other quick fire YouTube tips did you have?
So for channel art, and if you're like, what the heck's channel art? Don't worry, it's fun. When you go to somebody's YouTube channel, there's a thing at the top and it says, hey, I'm a cute yogi, and whatever, new videos weekly, that's your channel art. And YouTube has made this extremely confusing, but I have a new tool for this. If you're needing to create channel art or end screens, I'm not going to talk about end screens today, but snappa.com, 2 P's, snappa.com, you can go in there and find for free on their free account, you can find a ton of templates that are already optimized. A friend of mine was just asking this yesterday. How in the heck do I get my stuff to show just in the right spot? That's a great one. YouTube thumbnails you can also do in there. You can also do those on Canva. You don't have to have a separate uploaded thumbnail for YouTube. You can just, it will recommend a few for you. You could just pick one of those. It may have you making a funny face. It's so easy.
Mine are always like this.
I know. I'm like, even if you don't put text over it, you could at least just upload a thumbnail sized picture of yourself so that it's, if you're just getting started out and you're like, I can't do graphics, it's fine. It's fine because you don't have to do all of that. You're going to want to eventually if you keep doing YouTube. The title of your video is not what goes in the thumbnail text of your video. That's another one that people get confused on. Thumbnail text. So when you go search for videos and you see a picture of the person and it's like, hey, learn how to grow your Instagram, and it has those words. Those words are not in the algorithm. What you name your photo that you upload might be. So what you want to use for those is you want it to be really bold and quick, yoga for back hair. You don't have to get super specific because people are going to click on it and find out. Hopefully they're going to watch it for 30 seconds and at least so that you get the view credit. Other things though, let's go way behind to where, like, if someone is just like, I just started on Zoom, this is too much. So inside this course, you will learn just basic editing, basic tech setup, really simple. Like and that's what's cool to be inside the course because we can have that dialogue. If you're like, I don't want wires, I don't want to deal with any of this crap, how can I get the best I can get with what I have? That's something that I can put on YouTube. Because you're not going to be the next Yoga with Adrienne anytime soon. She has like 7 million subscribers. So, you start somewhere, right? And I'll teach you some basic editing and show you how to do editing within YouTube. So let's say you did the video, you upload it to YouTube. You can't get super fancy in there, but you can clip out, you can cut out some things, and you can also do that in Facebook. And then, there will be like some bonus materials if you want to learn more so that you could go back to it later, like how to add cards and end screens, and that all goes to getting more views. When you say it's like getting more views, but what does that mean? That means that you're getting.
I was just about to ask you that. What does that mean?
Well, that just means that more people are going to see your video. And if you set it up right, if you let me help you set it up in the best way for you to be seen, maybe you don't have 100,000 subscribers tomorrow, but if you've gotten in front of 5 more people who like your content and connect with you and need it, and you've helped people, and it's also made you more visible. And if people aren't quite ready to buy a membership with you or maybe sign up for your studio package, if we ever do that again, then you can say, well, check out these YouTube videos. And that again goes to fear space. Like if you're in a confident space about your teaching and you say, go check out these videos, and if it's your jam, great, I'll follow up with you and see what you thought. And a lot of it's just about a lot of this is about mindset. Other things that we'll look at is how to create content that people want to just keep going back to find more. Like, let's say you have that back hair video and people really liked it. Then we can kind of branch off of that into, doing more in that are like that, so that people go, oh, and now I want to watch this one. Now I want to watch that one. And then just other helpful tools and apps that you can use, like vidIQ, to save you some time on finding what keywords and such that you might want to use. Keywords Everywhere is another one. And a lot of these are free. So, and then also talking about how to ethically use the platform, and not to do things that, not to violate the community rules and stuff like that. I could go on for days, but if anybody has any specific YouTube specific to YouTube question, I will see if I can answer it. I don't know it all, but I do know a lot.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes. So if you have a YouTube question, be sure and pop it in. We are going to do a drawing of everyone who made a comment after the show, and we will pop the winner's name into the comments as well, or try to reach out to them somehow. And so the winner will receive a free strategy session with Rena to sort of assess where you are, what you need, and how she can help you with that. So be sure to make your comments, questions, if you have any. And I want to ask you one more question. And before I let you sort of talk about how they can get a hold of you, but a quick question. Tell me something, a funny or embarrassing yoga story or business story. You have music, yoga, attorneying. Do you have a kind of funny or embarrassing story you want to share with us?
I'm sure that I do. I'm trying to think of one, but it's funny because it's not funny, but what actually comes to mind is not something embarrassing or funny. It's just something that is on my heart about yoga.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's
so
fine.
That's not what you asked for, but that's what you're going to get. I feel I've been trying to send this message out lately, and I know that you can relate to this. I spent a period of my life in and out of severe depression, and like dangerously severe depression. And I feel that I need to share about this more because especially now I'm seeing a lot of posts about people, the isolation is really hard on them. And yoga literally taught me how to have the kind of coping mechanisms that I needed to be able to find balance in my life. And, earlier we were talking about why we're here, and that's why I'm here. That is why I am. I mean, that is my dharma. My dharma is to help people find a simpler way to live. And, when I was studying with Chase Bossart, yoga therapy, he would always say how Krishnamacharya and Desikachar would say, Krishnamacharya's son Desikachar would say, how do you know your yoga is working? And he would say, because your relationships are working. Your relationships got better. And that's been so true for me. So, and I know you're all yoga teachers. A lot of your yoga teachers may be dance teachers on here, but that was life-changing for me. And I mean, I had therapy and other things, and just learning how to tune into my body, my mind, examine my patterns of behavior, and there was a different way to be, and I found it through yoga. So hope that helps.
That's lovely. Okay, we do have one more question. Lisa, hi Lisa, so glad you're here with us today. Why doesn't my voice match the video once I download the edited version to YouTube? Oof.
Hey Lisa. Okay, so first question is, it's so good to see you on here. I love seeing everything that you're doing with kiddos and stuff. So do you want to come on? Are you where you can come on and be on screen with us?
Yeah, Lisa, if you want to come on live and ask your question, you can.
Meanwhile, I'll start to answer it.
Yes, there's the link to come on if you want to ask your questions live, and that's for anyone who wants to come on.
Yeah, we love to have company.
Mm-hmm.
So let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You did it on Zoom, and when you watched the Zoom playback, it was synced. But when you upload it, it's not synced? Answer that for me first. This probably has to do with an upload or download speed and the size of your files.
Sorry about that. I think she's trying to figure out how to get on. So yeah, if you use this link, the HTTPS app.BLiveTV and that number, if you type that into a browser, then that will pull you into the staging, and then I'll pop you up on the screen with us.
Can that be pasted in the comments where she could just click it, or will that not work?
Let me see if I can.
I can try it. I can type it in.
I think I can. No, I can't.
On that. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? I could do it over here. I could do it over here on the side.
Tech is great until it's not.
Here, let me just do it right here.
It's definitely not my bag. But, well, she did commented, upload not sent. I don't know if that means synced.
Yeah,
or maybe she's saying that her uploads aren't syncing. I know I have that trouble on Facebook sometimes. Sometimes on Facebook, my videos, my audio will be off, and I'm not exactly sure.
If it's off, but it was right when you downloaded it from Zoom, then there is a way to sync it. Zoom also has a separate audio file. There's a few things that we could do. I don't know how much editing experience you have, but I could probably help you navigate this offline. I would love to help. It might have to do with the speed at which you downloaded it, what type of file it is. So let me know if you are, and I'm going to give you a second to see if you jump on here, just because I'd love to hear how everything's going with you anyway.
Lisa's here. Welcome, Lisa. Lisa, thank you for coming on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Gosh, I've been working so hard on all of this, and I just where can I get my questions answered? And you guys,
you're doing great.
Really helpful. Yeah, so no, I will do a recording of a class in Zoom. Then I'll take that recording into iMovie. I'll do my edits, and it looks like it's matching pretty well, not perfectly, but I couldn't figure out how to do anything to make it match better. And then a couple days ago, I had one that I thought, wow, it's matching. I don't know what I did, but it's matching. And then I put it over on YouTube and didn't really watch it until the next day, and it wasn't matching. And I was like, oh gosh, how long is it going to take me to learn how to do this?
Oh, you're doing great. You're doing great. And I know it's frustrating because we're all, the reason we all are in yoga is because we're all OCD crazy. Like, I shouldn't have said that, not crazy, but we're like typing, everything has to be perfect. And I think you're doing great. Part of this tech stuff right now is just because the internet is about to, explode with everybody doing all this stuff all day, every day. If when you upload it, it's doing that, how are you saving the file? What are you saving it as? Are you saving it as an MP4 from iMovie, or do you know?
I think so.
File size.
Yeah, that's what
let me ask you this. Do you have the ability to do a separate recording outside of Zoom?
That's what I started doing, but this was a separate recording.
Oh, really? Ooh.
And that's why it matched while I was editing in iMovie. So I thought, okay, I figured this out. It's a separate recording. Now I've got this. And then, like I said, when I went and watched it back on YouTube, it wasn't. So that's when my brain finally switched around to maybe it's quality. Like maybe I'm not saving it as a high enough quality somewhere.
Possibly. Have you tried to watch it from a different device to make sure it's not just your device that's creating the lag?
No.
So make sure that there's actually a lag.
Okay.
So go watch it from your phone or something before we mess with your video.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll just.
Yeah, and then I think I have some recommendations on how to set your frames per second and your resolution. Let's see if I can just type these in.
That sounds really complicated. So we can put that in the show notes in the description. So we're going to go back and add everything if that.
Well, what I was going to say too, Lisa, if you want to DM me, I'll set up a Zoom with you and I'll see if I can help you troubleshoot it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
it's lagging on my phone too, so it's not just my computer.
Okay. Did it take it a really long time to upload?
No, not particularly. No, I mean,
how long was the video? How many minutes?
30. less than 30.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can help you figure it out.
All right. That'd be awesome.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Do you have any other questions while you're up here?
I have no idea how I even got in here, but like I just started like, I'm like, oh my God. Okay.
Magic.
No, that is my main question. I think I've sort of figured out the music thing. Sort of, maybe.
Okay. Tell us what you've been doing. What have you been doing with music?
Well, I haven't, because I haven't been able to get it in there, but like during my kids' shows, I want to be able to have a piece of music in there to sing or dance with. And so yesterday I went in and changed some Zoom settings deep inside the Zoom land, and something way back in there that if I undid it would make it work.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the settings. It's original sound and then disabling noise suppression.
Yeah.
Suppression.
So I went in there.
That does help a lot.
Yeah. And then I so it seemed like that was going to work. I haven't experimented with it to see, but just a little.
Are you playing, if I missed it, I'm sorry. Are you playing it through your computer or just in your room, in your space?
Well, that's what I needed to go back in and play around with today. So I take like one computer, I have it in the room, and then I bring my other computer in the other room, and I run back and forth to see like what is being heard. You know, can the music be heard, and is it stammering and stuttering and all of that? And
we'll do this when I Zoom with you. We'll do this for sure.
Yeah.
Send me a DM, and because this Pamela and Nikki and I do this like at least once a day, some iteration of
it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for coming on, asking your question. Appreciate you being here, and appreciate you watching as well. We have another question about, and I think you may have already answered this. I'm not sure. Lori, thank you for your question. Not sure if she tuned in later, if we're needing clarifications. She says she shared her YouTube video in private, and some participants can't get access. They get the message that this video is private, even if I have already entered their email address.
Do they have a YouTube channel with that email address as their login?
Yeah. So, Lori, if you want to come on and conversate about that, then here is the link.
If you don't want to come on, you can comment.
And if you don't want to come on, you can clarify your question or answer Rena's question about what did you say, Rena, again? Sorry, I was looking up there.
Oh, I was just saying she said she missed the beginning. Okay. Yeah. So Lori, what happened, and feel free to click that link and come on. We'd love to see your sweet face if you can. When you enter the email address and you send them that email, the only way that link is going to work is if they have a YouTube account that they log in with that email address or have it linked to their YouTube somehow. Either that could maybe even be through Google, but it doesn't work. That's why private is so tough. Are you a dance teacher, yoga teacher?
Yeah. So again, and you may want to go back and look at the beginning, Lori, but also, yeah, that would be a case for doing it unlisted instead of private. Right.
Is there some reason, Lori, that you don't want to do it unlisted? You could feel free to type in. Such good questions. All good questions.
Yeah. So I don't see her coming in, and I don't see answer. But
you can always
if she types it in, we can always come back. So tell us a little bit, Rena, about your course and how to reach you. And I'm going to jump out and start putting some of your links in the comments.
Okay. Yeah. So I talked a little bit about this already, but basically the My cat is making an appearance. I don't know if y'all can hear her. She likes to meow very loudly. So the reason I wanted to do the course is because I've been helping teachers teach on Zoom, getting set up, and basically I've really just been doing Zoom. I haven't helped anybody on any other online live platform really. And because I've been doing this for a long time, I started thinking that people, with just a little bit of strategy, you could really be thinking about how to repurpose that content for YouTube. And when you get on YouTube, you're getting a broader audience. You can connect with people globally. You can test out some things. You can let your students, give your students the links. So basically the course would go into basics about all of this, and it would start where you are. So if you want to be on a more advanced track, then this will include some one-on-one sessions with people as an option for this. But basically just basic tech, a lot of the things that we've talked about today on a deeper level, some tools that you can use, and how to really put that all together and come up with a plan for. And what I recommend is batching content and then scheduling it out. It's really easy to do in YouTube. And we'll talk a little bit too about how you can test things out on Facebook. And if y'all don't know, Facebook has a way to upload videos that's similar to YouTube. It's not nearly as robust, and I don't think quite as searchable. I haven't found it to be as helpful, but it's a good place to test things out. You can put a thumbnail, you can put a description, you can put tags, and create playlists right in Facebook. So we'll talk about that too, and talk about how you can, I can show you how you can utilize your channel art to point to offerings that you might have that people could click to right from your YouTube channel. So you can learn all of that, and a little bit will be guided by what people want to learn, but really just the basics, SEO basics, how to title your videos, and how to determine maybe a niche, or maybe your niche is too small. We can talk about that too.
Yeah, that's all great information. So we're going back to Lori. She says she's a yoga teacher. She said she tried to click on the link to get in, and she couldn't get it to let her in. So
okay.
So yeah.
So
we go ahead.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So just the basics. Her best bet is going to be Unlisted if she has people who don't want a YouTube account with that email address that they have to use. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So Lori, Rena talks pretty in depth about that earlier in the broadcast. So if you want to go back when it hits replay, then you can kind of look at that. And then of course, DM her with any questions if you still need clarification, or you can ask me. We're just here to help. So either of us, you can reach out to.
I also did a 5-minute video on that so that you can watch too, that talks about exactly like how to do that to make it work if they do have a YouTube account, and we can share the link to that as well.
Yeah. So we'll pop that link.
Did you ask me something else, Pamela?
No. I was just confirming that yes, we will pop that link into the comments and descriptions so that everybody will have. And I put links to all of Rena's offerings and her website so that you can check her out, and her YouTube channel, so you can go there. Make sure you subscribe so that you'll get all of her videos as they come up, and because she's putting in lots and lots of amazing stuff, and it's pretty cool. It's exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
It really, really is. We know that more than ever now, don't we? You can get on the wait list. You can get on the wait list for that course. There's a link that she just posted to get on that wait list. That'll just drop me your email so that I can keep you informed when that is going to come out. I'm planning to do it so that it can be completed prior to June 30th, so that you can get continuing education hours for it, because now we have that as a YACEP. I can offer anything we do online. You can get contact hours for. And I also just put my online prenatal course on sale for $50 off. And I'm offering some scholarships on that as well. And I think Pamela has that link too. So you can see in there how we did that. And then you can find me at renawren.com or at Rena Wren.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. And again, if you have any other questions, feel free to DM us and let us know, either one of us, you know, any YouTube questions, ask Rena, and anything else that you may have for me, feel free to ask. I just want to thank you for tuning in. And our next week, we're going to be hearing from Jivana Heyman talking about accessible yoga. And so I'm really excited to learn more about that and how we can sort of understand how to make yoga accessible, who fits that description, and what that's all about. So I'm very excited about that. Next week, 11 o'clock, Intero-Views Performance on Facebook. So be sure and like my channel. Also, jump over to my YouTube at Intero-Views Performance and subscribe and hit notifications so you'll know what I'm up to as well. I have a great guide and teacher teaching me all of the YouTube ins and outs, and I'm learning every single day. So thanks again. Bye.